Microsoft Insider just leaked. Xbox is over. Now we know who is responsible. Now, like I said, I've already kind of read up on this a little bit. I haven't watched this video, but this does directly affect World of Warcraft, Blizzard, Activision, everything as a whole. What you're about to realize is how once Microsoft absorbed World of Warcraft and Blizzard and all these titles, the kind of requirements that they're putting on them to draw a profit. You're going to see some very interesting. This was stuff that was never meant for the public eye. Things that they want in terms of profit margins, the amount of money that World of Warcraft needs to make, how they need to make that money. Some very, very interesting stuff here that gives you some insight into why the devs are doing some of the stuff they're doing. Maybe some insight into why we're going to get player housing, honestly. But let's check this one out here from Bellular.
30% profit margin. Lock that into your brain because it's what we're talking about today, because it's the
That's
number
right, 30%,
that is
yep.
destroying Xbox right now. And that's because Microsoft demands that Xbox hits this target every single year.
Now, when he says Xbox, he means their games division, okay? So it's all across the board. We're talking about World of Warcraft. We're talking about Call of Duty. We're talking about Candy Crush, like everything across the board, all under the gaming division for Xbox.
But here is the thing. The games industry is not the enterprise software as a service industry. And that basically means that Phil, Sarah, and the squad are trying...
What did this say? What's the average? The average profit margin in a games industry in recent years is 17 to 22%. Okay. Well, I mean, that's probably because upfront dev costs and everything have gotten so high that, yeah, where's that going to go? It's going to take out from your profit margin.
And that basically means that Phil, Sarah, and the squad are dragging a humongous anchor. One that their competitors don't have to, and if they struggle, they know it's going to be bad.
All right, I'm assuming the anchor he's talking about is the Xbox console itself, because that thing's got, I believe, it's got like a negative profit margin.
Story exists because we finally know why Xbox has been burning everything to the ground. And to understand that, here's what the old Xbox was like according to Bloomberg. Game makers weren't asked to hit specific numerical targets. They were told to focus on making the best games possible without worrying too much about finances. So that Xbox, the Xbox that wanted to compete for its space in this industry, it is dead. The new Xbox, well, it is a profit machine that will destroy just about everything to hit its 30% target. That could be your favorite studio. It could be that game you're waiting for. It could be the entire concept of exclusive games. All of these sacrificed for one impossible goal set 2 years ago by their owners at Microsoft. Now, with all that's going on, I'm learning a touch of Dutch because I play WoW with Dutch people. I love the place, love my time there, especially in Efteling. And today's sponsor, Babbel, is how I am
Learn a
learning.
language, bitch.
It's an award-winning app that makes learning a new language simple and effective.
I wonder if they'll mention that it's been leaked that WoW will be on Xbox next console. I don't know if that was a leak, but I did report on that already. And yeah, it's going to be, basically the new Xbox is going to be a PC. So it's not really that WoW's going to Xbox, it's that Xbox is coming to WoW. The new Xbox in 2027 is going to be released. It's going to be basically a small PC, which will run things like Battle.net and everything else. So you're going to be able to play WoW on your Xbox, technically.
25 million subscriptions sold. They've got 92% of users saying they're improving their proficiency level in just 2 months. And after using Babbel, after I've ordered a coffee, I can say, thank you, Vel, without looking like I'm a bit silly. So, to start speaking a new language in as quick as 3 weeks, go to babbel.com/bellular and you will get up to 55% off your subscription. So that's 55% off when you use my link. You can join the millions of Babbel learners who are breaking down those language barriers, and that's at babbel.com/bellular.
Yep.
To get a bit of...
Yeah, companies care more about profit numbers and less about the customers. It's true. I mean, there's the never-ending push to make more money. And that's because every company, every corporation is beholden to the shareholders. And what do the shareholders care about? They don't care about your fucking midnight expansion. No, they care about money, profit, right? The margin of profit. How much juice is in the squeeze? That's what they care about. So that's why you see all the time, like these companies recording record profit now, right? We just hit record profits this quarter. And then a week later, you see they're laying off like 500 people and cutting 2 divisions. You're like, why would you do that? You guys are highly successful. It's because that's the floor and we got to go higher. And that's how it constantly is going. And it has led to a degradation in product for sure. It's sad because you see the philosophy early on from Xbox was just make good games. We got to get market share, right? We got to compete with PlayStation. We're behind the 8 ball right now. How are we going to compete? Just make good games. We don't care about the profit right now. We'll be a loss leader for all we care. And that's when we used to get really good games, right? That was when we were getting the original Halos. That's when we were getting the original Gears of War. Like these really, really good Xbox exclusive titles that honestly built Xbox to where it was back then, coming out from nowhere and building itself up to, actually compete with PlayStation by the time it was on Xbox 360. And unfortunately, ever since then, now we see, the fallback where it's like, okay, now we got to start making profits. So fuck the quality. We need 30% profit margins, which is sad.
On this, I need to go back to something from 2020.
Yeah, the shareholders are the problem. Yes, that's why a lot of times non-publicly traded companies, you'll see them make better decisions. More human decisions.
Then, Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft, allegedly considered closing down Xbox, just stopping, getting out of games. Now, for what it's worth, Microsoft does deny this, but we do know something important, that even in 2020, Nadella was working out ways to increase Xbox's value to Microsoft. Now, this wasn't happening in a vacuum, and sometimes opportunities just happen to land in your lap, such as, well, Activision. And Bobby Kotick tells the story here. In 2020, Bobby reached out to his good mate Satya to help to buy TikTok. But rather than buy the brain rot machine, Nadella pulled Uno reverse and said, how about we buy you instead?
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I didn't know it started with a TikTok pitch that led to the purchase of Blizzard Activision, but could you imagine if Bobby had bought TikTok? Oh my God. Yeah, profit, advertisements everywhere. That shit would have been driven into profit hell.
Of course, 2 years later, Kotick was ready to sell, and they sorted out a deal
every other scroll being
that was worth $75.4 billion. And as 2023 closed, the real chaos started. People expected some staff reductions at ABK from the merger. What they got was 1,900 people fired in one round, which was 8% of the new Xbox, and as we go on to find out, it was just the beginning of the roller coaster. The last 2 years had been goddamn brutal. Thousands of staff are gone, studios like The Initiative and Tango Gameworks have been shuttered or sold, projects...
Wait, was that Blizzard Activision that I saw on the Blizzard Entertainment, about 100 games industry layoffs, so there you go. That was the first page here. Microsoft Gaming, 650, damn, it's so many. Yep.
Sold, projects cancelled left and right, and all of that is before the price hikes. The consoles cost more. Games Pass costs way more.
Yeah,
everything costs more.
Style,
even though,
a lot of good
all
games
of this,
back then.
Phil Spencer and his team kept saying the same thing. Quote, we have more players, games, and gaming hours than ever before. Our platform, hardware, and game roadmap have never looked stronger. And that really didn't make sense to us, given everything else that we saw. I mean, how could Xbox be at its best ever while having to make humongous cuts to its staffing? Well, now we've got the answer. It comes from one
profit
decision
margins
that was made in 2023, and it comes from a new character to this story. Full credit to Bloomberg for getting the scoop on this. And here's the story. Since autumn 2023, Microsoft Chief Financial Officer Amy Hood had set a target for Xbox. And that was that they must maintain a...
It's always the fucking chief financial officer. It's the person that's completely disconnected from the product. She probably never fucking played Xbox in her life. She probably doesn't play video games. But she's the CFO, and she just comes up with a fucking blatant number, like, we need 30% profit margins from our games. That's what my calculations say. Figure it out. And then you realize that, no, that peanut butter bullshit over all of the games that you make isn't going to work. It doesn't make sense. And then the product suffers, basically. Now you got this hard line, 30%. I got to make 30% profit on the game. How are you going to do that? Well, I don't know, a long boy mount, maybe? You basically got to start making stuff that's low effort, high profit, to offset the things that are high effort, low profit. So like making something like a brand new expansion, that's a lot of time. That's a lot of dev time that goes into that. And how are you going to profit at a 30% rate? You'd have to raise the price of the expansion. Now, Blizzard's done that by doing what they're doing, right? They got the 3-day early access. Hey, let's add an amount. Let's incentivize the purchase of the higher end version of this thing, of the pre-order, to try to get people to, get to that 30% profit margin on this thing. So that's what you do. Like I said, you're adding in mounts, you're adding in transmog, you're adding in what? Housing. Housing is going to be a big boon for this game in terms of profit. You know it's going to have a ton of shit on the store. Obviously,
let us lay waste to this
Alerex, thank you for the follow. Welcome to our Scourge. Obviously, making a chair and selling it for $5 on the WoW store is extremely high profit margin versus making a raid and trying to profit off the $15 sub every month by keeping people in the game because you've created an entirely new raid. So yeah, player housing for sure is a play on trying to keep up with this 30% profit margin. It's just sad because it does lead to a degradation of game quality because people are just looking how to cut out profit as quickly as possible, or get more profit, I should say.
30%, quote, accountability margin. Yes, an accountability margin. So, if you don't hit that, you're in deep trouble. And what that basically means is that it's Microsoft's term for profit margin on individual segments within the business. And here's the simple version. Whatever revenue Xbox makes from consoles, games, and subscriptions, the cost of doing that has got to be 30% less than what they bring in. And look, that is how big companies work. If you're not making profit, you're an Ubisoft. And then investors do start getting a little bit itchy, thinking about, should we do a hostile takeover? Should we, do some private equity and gut you like a fish? Of course, even in gaming, you do actually need enough profit that one bad game won't literally kill your whole company, or that one failed deal won't do similar. Looking at you, Embracer Group. But here's the problem. A 30% margin on first-party game services is very much where eyebrows go up. And to get a handle on that, I want you to take a guess. What do you think Nintendo's profit margin is? What do you think PlayStation's profit margin is? Have a number in your head, and I'll tell you in a moment. But first, we need to talk about what this target has done to Xbox, because it does explain everything. Every quarter, Xbox leadership looks at their results, and if they don't see a 30%...
If I had to guess, I don't think it's 30%. Maybe 20%. Maybe 20%. It might be lower than that. But just because I know how these fucking corporations work, whatever it is, this CFO, Chief Financial Officer, came in, looked at the industry as a whole, and said, we're going to do better. And why do they want to do better? Because they want investors to look across the board and say, who's making the most money? Microsoft. Wow, you're making more money than Nintendo and PlayStation in your games division. Here's my money. Take it. I'm going to buy some of your stocks. That's how it works, right? You always got to undercut the competition. How are you going to undercut them? By squeezing more juice out of your lemons. That's what it is. So surely they're not making 30%, and there's no way they're making more than 30% because the CFO wouldn't come out and aim lower than the competition. So it's, again, my guess 20.
Profit margin, they have a simple equation to balance. Cut things to get the margin. In Microsoft's eyes, Xbox is a group that is spending more than they are making, and that needs to change. That means less spending on staff. That means cancel support for third-party studios, like, say, the Romeros, who just got utterly fucked, right? Awful stuff. This is them literally being forced to break contracts with studios that have hired and paid for staff based on those active contracts.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff. There have been cancelled projects that Xbox leadership loved, like ZeniMax's Project Blackbird. And the reason why is that they won't generate profits in the short term. Now, you might be...
It's sad. Some of you guys will say, well, how are they breaking the contract? Like, how is Microsoft... What he's saying is anything that wasn't going to profit at a 30%, so these bigger studios will hire smaller studios to make things for them, make some games or whatever, we'll integrate it into our systems. And then so this 30% comes out, you look at the little guy, with his little 5-man army that's making this new game for you, and you tell him, actually, we're not going to go through with this contract. And you guys probably wonder, like, wait a minute, well, isn't there some repercussions for this? Can't these guys, this little game studio sue Microsoft? The answer is probably no, and even if they did, it'd be a failure. Why? Because a lot of times when you got these little upstarts, right, where the little guy is making a deal with the big guy, you work that shit into the contract, right? And the little guy is going to agree to every stupid thing possible because they just need the money and they just want a chance to prove themselves. So you're going to agree to these blatantly obvious, carve-outs that much favor Microsoft way more than you because you have to. At the end of the day, it's kind of the price to play, right? You just got to agree to all this bad shit in the contract because you just want to work with Microsoft. So that's fine. You agree to it. Say that isn't even in the agreement. You know how much a fucking lawsuit costs? If you just got all your money pulled, you're this upstart game studio, are you about to remortgage the homes of all of your fucking employees to try to get this lawsuit through and actually get money back from Microsoft? No, you're probably not. You're probably not. And by the way, there's not even a guarantee you're going to win because, again, there's probably shit in the contract that'll stop you from winning. So it's a sad spot to be in, but it's not just a games industry thing. All the industries work this way. I'm telling you, I work in them, and this is across the board. Always the big guy will have a contract that favors them when it comes to working with the little guy. That's just standard business practice.
Able to understand that if you just try to juice your margin in the short term, it probably means you're underinvesting in your future.
And now with
that
AI
can
is a
mean
big
you
play.
get
AI is a
outcompeted
big
over
play
time.
too.
And this is actually one of the reasons why competition is a good thing, because
Right. How do you squeeze 30% profit margins? What's your biggest cost to making a game? It's developers. Developers. You remember that shit? So developers are your biggest cost. How do you cut costs then to make a game? Well, you cut developers and you tell the ones that are left, use AI to replace the buddies that we just cut. Unfortunately, AI really isn't there yet. So what you end up having is a degraded product. Now, could AI eventually get to a point where it starts to make really good shit? Maybe, but it's not there yet. And these companies are already running full force into it. They don't care.
competition actually exists to decrease profit margins by forcing companies to spend more money fighting for their consumers, and that's why we, the consumers, are supposed to win. I mean, hell, the games industry is one built off loss leaders. Loss leaders are obviously something they can't have anymore. As an example, dev kits for AAA companies are not sold at a loss. They just increase the price humongously. For reporting houses, it's the same deal. Now, the good news is that indies can still get free dev kits from their ID at Xbox program, but those big corporate spends of trying to help their partners develop good shit for their platform,
that's gone.
Well, those are now a lot more expensive.
Yeah. It's not going to happen anymore. Just remember, AI is the worst it'll ever be at the moment. True. You made that comment about a minute ago. AI was worse a minute ago than it currently is right now. This is very true. It'll only keep getting better. There aren't really going to be setbacks with AI. There might be times where it's the improvement slows down, but this is very true. AI will continue to get, every day that you wake up, the AI has gotten better than it was the day before.
The developers and publishers. Basically, Xbox's spending has got to change every year so that it stays within that tight 30% margin target. And it's all because of this mandate set by Amy Hood 2 years ago. And for this, the timing and the context matters, because everything changed around the time of the big acquisition. The date is the most important thing here, and it is fall 2023. That is right when the Activision Blizzard acquisition closed. And we've talked about this idea before, that the spending on the deal got Microsoft to actually pay attention to Xbox. Now, in some ways,
Hey, you spend billions of dollars on something. Yeah, it's time to flip around and say, okay, we just spent billions of dollars on it. What was it, 60-something billion dollars? Time to start making some money out of it, right?
was good stuff. They now get Call of Duty money, but, 75 billion deal value. That's quite a lot of billions. But that's not the only thing that happened, because from 2023, Microsoft got really excited about AI.
Of course. Wow, it's like we predicted it. We knew this part of the story was coming. We freaking knew it.
That meant they started regretting something. They kind of wish that that Activision
AI
Blizzard King
reacts.
money was going into funding more data centers. And the Bloomberg report does reinforce this, because before that date, teams did not worry about hitting arbitrary performance targets. The notion of investing a lot of money now in something that would get more money later was, a healthy enough thing at the company.
Yeah.
But then there was a corporate shift in how the business was ran and how it produced.
I mean, if you look back at like Vanilla WoW, there's no way Vanilla WoW gets made in all its entirety with that freaking massive world and everything under a 30% profit margin, think tank. That shit's not going to happen. The amount of time and dev power and just the scale of World of Warcraft when it was coming out and when it was being created was unfathomable. Like they had no idea if the game was going to make the money. That it was a big gamble, but to limit it to a certain profit margin, they couldn't have predicted that at all. Remember, Blizzard, when World of Warcraft came out, they had to go get more servers. They didn't realize how popular the game was going to be. They surely weren't accounting for its popularity, and yet they put all that love and time into that whole massive world that we see as Azeroth, the OG Azeroth. All that time went in, and they were never calculating out, okay, we need to make a 30% profit margin. Certainly they were calculating out, hopefully this thing is profitable. If not, we're going under. But they never were basing it on this like hard, arbitrarily profit margin line.
Games. And here's a curious thing. It comes from Ethan Gatch writing for Kotaku, and he noticed a parallel. That Activision's
we would start with way less
was
zones, for sure.
32%
Today.
the quarter before the deal closed. Did Microsoft just look at that and think, oh, if Activision can do it, we can as well? Which of course would be an insane thing, because Activision was, in many ways, Bobby's finely oiled Call of Duty machine.
True.
So of course it was designed to be pretty damn profitable. It's a little bit different from being a first-party player in the industry. Though I need to note that there's a lot of looseness in how margins even get calculated, and that's because operating...
So it's all Bobby's fault. Everything's always Bobby's fault. The other day I stubbed my toe when I was taking my kid up the stairs to bed. Bobby's fault, for sure. Yeah. Greg's failed marriage, or, his lack thereof, and then the fact that there's no intimacy in Greg from accounting's marriage, so he just runs delves all day. Bobby's fault. No doubt. Current COVID, Bobby's fault. Yeah. The destruction of TikTok, almost Bobby's fault. It's always Bobby's fault.
Margin doesn't always include
30% profit margin,
spending.
Bobby's fault.
That means things like tax. But take a look at
That
some of these
fucking
numbers.
goblin.
In 2022, Activision's net income versus total revenue was 20%. In 2021, it was 31%. And it fluctuated between 20 and 30% in prior years.
So they caught it at an all-time high. That 31% was not typical, right? I wonder what came out that year. Why was this? It must have been like the new relaunch of Call of Duty or something like that.
You can almost connect the dots where Microsoft looks at their new acquisition with an incredibly high profit margin, and then they look at their existing game division and think, we expect more. And in some ways, yeah, sure, look at they screwed Halo and have screwed so many things since the Xbox One era. But look, you can say a lot about Bobby Kotick's Activision Blizzard. You really can, and I have. But above all else, I think we can all agree it was a finely tuned money-making machine.
It was.
It wasn't a finely tuned game-making machine because, let's be real, they made fewer and fewer different franchises.
Yeah, we could talk shit about Bobby all we want. If you want to make money, you put that guy in charge. If you don't give a shit about the product and you just want to get as much money out of whatever you're doing as possible, put Bobby in charge. He'll get that shit done for you. He'll squeeze some money out of whatever you're doing as much as possible. You put Bobby in charge of a daycare, he's going to turn that shit into the most finely oiled machine you've ever seen. He's gonna give them the lowest grade food. He's gonna make sure all the toys are Temu toys from China. He's gonna make sure that you're only, it's got automatic lights turning on and off in certain rooms. That way, not all the rooms are using electricity at the same time. He's gonna hire the minimal amount of staff from India to do that shit and get it done. The phone line's gonna be limited to customer service that transfers you over to Thailand. Like he's gonna get that shit running. Is it gonna be the best daycare? No. But is it going to be the most profitable daycare in the entire area? Hell yeah, it is.
As time went on, they essentially optimized everything into the things that they were running that did appear to be working well. And coming off the COVID boom especially, they basically found themselves with live service games that were massive money spinners. But they also had not been investing much in new games for the long-term future, because that's not what they, as a third party, were optimized for. But the thing is, you cannot apply their logic to a first party like Xbox, because even Nintendo and PlayStation do not work that way. Remember the profit margin numbers I asked you to guess? Well, here are the answers.
I said 20.
Nintendo's net profit margin last year was 23.9%.
Hey, I'm not far off.
It was 29.3%.
Oh, 29. What the hell? Why'd everyone's profit margins drop off a cliff? 20. All right, there you go. 29 might be like on a, I don't know, console launch year. I feel like console launch years probably are less profitable in terms of margin because those are kind of expensive.
Pretty awesome. Well, that's because Nintendo are laser focused like Activision, and even with that, they cannot consistently hit 30%. As for PlayStation, they had 8.8% and 6.7% respectively.
Oh, shit.
Pretty rough. Now, these guys are Xbox's closest competitors. They are mass-market console producers representing opposite ends of the spectrum. And Bloomberg notes that the industry average ranges from 17 to 22%, and that Xbox was resting between 10 and 20%. So it's not unreasonable for Microsoft to ask Xbox to increase margins, especially since the division hasn't really worked that well since the Xbox 360 era. But there's a problem with that, and that problem is the size of the increase they were asking for and the timing. Mandating Xbox to hit 30% within a few years is healthy and reasonable. That is them
that's
growing
not
the
what
business.
happened.
But
surely.
just demanding 30% now, regardless of what you're going to lose in hitting that, well, that creates chaos.
Yeah.
Chaos that we have all seen. It creates an Xbox
Creates
that
layoffs.
cannot do long-term planning. I mean, at what stage do we just look at Phil Spencer and think, wow, that guy's a liar? Now,
Yeah. If you got this crazy deadline approaching, like you got to figure out how to get through this box, right? Say there's this freaking box or square approaching you, right? There's a giant wall approaching you with a small square that you got to fit through, okay? And you don't, and this thing is like right in front of you, and you got to figure out how to get through it, or you're gonna die. Okay, that's my scenario. You're going to have to start chopping off limbs to fit through this thing if you've only got like a couple hours to figure out how you're going to fit through this square. Whereas if the square is like miles down the road and you got years, well, you can work out, lose some weight, become a little bit more flexible, work on your yoga, figure out how you're going to get through this thing, right? Without just destroying yourself in the process. Whereas if you only got like a couple hours, like I said, you're chopping off arms and legs. Okay, now you got through the square, great. What happens now? You're a fucking just a nub of a person left? Good luck figuring out how that shit's going to work now. And that's what ends up happening. You end up making these stupid decisions with no long-term consequences being thought about. And at the end of the day, you end up with a degraded product, something really shitty. Bad on the other end. Yeah, you got your goal achieved, but now what? Now you got to figure out how to pick up the pieces left behind because this goal was just thrown in your face without any time to really react to it.
Like, I understand he's one of the last, like him and Sarah Bond are some of the last forces just holding the worst shit at bay. But you can imagine from their perspective, every plan that they make seemingly gets destroyed by these insane targets that have been given to them. Just take exclusive games as an example.
By the way, this is not just Microsoft. All these corporations are doing. They're all putting out these stupid ass, unrealistic goals with unrealistic timelines.
Campaign evolved on Forza Horizon 6
this is a normal thing right now.
Launch on the PS5. And the reason why is simple. Xbox had a long-term plan. That plan was to make Game Pass great value using a credit system so the developer sales were not a factor even with them having waning console sales. But now they need the 30% target. And with that, games need to be more profitable, and they need to be more profitable faster. And that means launching on the big...
Or you have to break the dang wall. Well, you can't break the wall yourself. That takes a kind of a uniting of a lot of people. And unfortunately, people got, bills to pay and all kinds of shit. And a lot of people are just afraid to stand up, right, to say something. And you do see stories out there where managers or directors will say, you know what, fuck it, I'm not doing this anymore. This is stupid. It's wrong. It's not going to work out. And those people usually get replaced by the yes men, right? You get echo chambers forming, all kinds of stupid shit happening. And the lower level employees, they're not making enough to really voice their opinion. They're worried about feeding their kids. They're worried about paying their mortgage, So it's a tough spot to be in. It's not for a lack of bravery or anything. It's just people weighing their options, understanding that they really can't, say or do what they want to because they've got, other responsibilities they got to worry about.
Biggest console where any amount of sales
They're just trying to
help
survive.
move that needle. But, of course, what it also will do is completely cede their ground on the hardware space. Because right now, to buy an Xbox is foolish. Just buy a PlayStation. It's a better console with a better games library, and a games library that's going to include all the Microsoft stuff. So why even bother with Xbox?
Yeah, Xbox doesn't even care about that. They just want you to buy Game Pass. They don't give a shit about selling Xboxes anymore. Buy Game Pass. They don't care. You get a PlayStation, you can play Halo on your PlayStation. Just get Game Pass.
What that does is it tanks their hardware sales. It
Or a
makes
mid-PC,
Xbox,
that's right.
as the platform that most consumers understand it, look completely directionless. Like they've got no clear plan to actually compete in the game space.
Their plan
they
is
have
Game
a plan
Pass.
to make money off games, but not a plan to compete in the way that we would want them to. In the way that would, force PlayStation to be better. And here's the thing. They're not just competing in the game space. They're competing inside Microsoft. Okay, so remember when I flagged Satya Nadella at the start of this video? Well, this year, our boy Satya is getting a pay rise of 22% up to 96.5 million in total comp.
Jesus Christ.
Well done, Satya. Now, GameFile spotted something goddamn
96
interesting.
million.
That Xbox just met their revenue growth target for the first time since 2021, where they achieved 15% content and services revenue growth against a 14% goal. Happy days, and that sure made the CEO get his lovely stock-based payout.
Oh,
Every
yeah.
other year, other divisions made their goals and kept Nadella happy, but Xbox did not. Now, in theory, this would mean that he would have personal incentive to improve Xbox because if all the divisions are doing better, then, well, the board can better justify increases in his compensation. Now, in reality, it's all part of the same system.
Right, because making 60 million versus 93 million or 98 million is such a big change in his life, for sure, right? Like, he couldn't afford that 18th boat. Now he can, thankfully. The truth is, I don't understand why. I think it's an ego thing. I don't even think it's money. At that point, when you're that rich and you're the CEO of Microsoft, there's no chance that you're really pushing for that extra $20 million. No, you're not. You're pushing for ego. You want to be the best of the best. Yeah, it's a mental illness for sure. That's what it is. Because the money doesn't matter. His millions of dollars that are currently whatever spread across the market in different investments are making millions of dollars a month anyways, if not a day. So the extra money is not what's incentivizing him. It's ego. It's the push to be looked at as the greatest CEO in the world. And that's why these guys keep doing what they're doing.
It's all part of Microsoft. And it's a system that we suggested means that Microsoft doesn't really care about Xbox that much. And the reason is that they don't care about Xbox as a division that makes games as a part of the games industry. They care about Xbox as a division that makes profits within Microsoft. Those are two completely different missions for Xbox. And for us on the outside, it means they have fundamentally changed. It means that they are now a junior competitor against the likes of PlayStation. And it means that we can no longer expect them to take as big swings, to try to define the future of the industry, to change its direction, to drive new types of hardware and new experiences, to do interesting shit that furthers...
Yeah, I mean, everything he's saying relates directly to World of Warcraft. It does mean that you're going to see features with profit, thought about, very much so. Like player housing, like I said, big feature, certainly profit-driven. Long boy mount for $90, certainly profit-driven. You're going to continue to see features that if it can't be justified, if it can't have a profit increase attached to it, then it's not going to be justified to go into development for the game. Unfortunate. And if you think that's just a World of Warcraft problem, you're sadly wrong. It's everywhere. So you pick your game, it's all the same shit.
Games as a medium. That won't happen. Because what they need to do is generate profit for their overall entity. An entity that really doesn't give a shit about games. And on the topic, do you know what's an existential threat to a company? Cocking up your GTA killing game so much that just shy of 100 staff have done a big open letter against you. It is quite the story.
Oh, damn.
Hilarious shit show. Pretty bad for the people involved. And you can learn all about it in this video next.
Wow. What does cocking up even mean? That's an interesting term. Must be a British thing. Yeah, crazy video, interesting stuff, and like I said, big insights into how development for World of Warcraft's going so far, and why they're making the decisions they are. Games industry as a whole is heading in this direction, so like I said, there's not really anywhere you can go that'll avoid this shit. This is corporate America. This is corporate world. And it's just kind of the shit we live in today. A nice video from Bellylar.